Welcome everyone listening and watching to us today. Today we are here in the heart of the Sharjah Entrepreneurship Festival. And for you who didn't attend SEF before, it's the celebration of Entrepreneurship Festival. It's 2 days of exceptional speakers, top world leaders coming together to inspire and educate thousands and millions of people. So today, I have a very exceptional guest with me, Fahad Badar. Welcome to the show and welcome to Sharjah.
Welcome, thank you.
Fahad, you have a very interesting story, and you've been inspiring so many people. I've been with you for 5 minutes and I can see the queue. So many people want to speak to you. They have seen their stories and they really want to know more and get some tips to improve their daily life. So for that, you are an exceptional mountaineering. You climbed. You are the first Arab to double summit 2 of the top mountains in the world, including Everest. You had an unfortunate incident few years back, and we will tap into this. And I would really love to start with, how did this passion for mountaineering start?
Thank you very much for hosting me. The passion for mountaineering started from a younger age for me, where even as a young boy, I liked always to explore, not to run away from the house, but to leave the house and try to explore the neighborhoods. But as I started studying in university, I started traveling, and always in my travel, I wanted to go backpacking. So I'm 44 years old. So when I started backpacking, I was 19 years old. And at that time, early 2000, there was no smartphones, nothing.
Yeah.
So I used to disappear for a month, for example, between Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia, and my family will not know where I am. And just having Lonely Planet guide and just there.
Lonely Planet times.
Exactly. Lonely Planet and Rough Guide, I had them. And I was always in the mountains, exploring villages, going the mountains, using public transport with very limited budget. I remember for a month spending just $1,000, which I was very careful how to spend it, as I did not have a credit card at that time. And also the same, I continued going to Nepal and exploring different parts. But I remember when I was in Nepal in 2003, this is when I was hiking there in Annapurna region, people started talking about Everest, and I started seeing people preparing for Everest. And this is the time when I said, one day I'll climb Everest. But
so it started just interest for hike?
For hiking only, like climbing was the next stage. And again, climbing, you need training, you need time, you need money. I was just a student, just started working. I did not have the effort. And for me, climbing Everest, the highest mountain in the world, it was a joke. It was something very difficult that maybe one day I'll do it. But for me, it was like a very far-fetched dream to achieve.
At the time?
Yeah.
Great. And then when you first, what was your first summit?
I think the real mountain to climb was Kilimanjaro. Before that, I can say I climbed, but they are not huge mountains, not big, smaller ones, But I think the first one started my first summit was in 2018. Before that, I continued hiking, but I never thought about going climbing until in 2016, where I was very successful in my professional career as a banker. And at that time, in 2016, I thought that I need to look at my passion again. And if I don't climb mountains, and even at that time I was not thinking about Everest, but I thought if I don't find time to climb mountains, you'll never find time, because you'll always say, I'm busy, I have work, I cannot do it. So in 2016, this is the time where I started seriously training and preparing to climb.
But tell me about this, because so many people have so much passions, or even have a longing for a specific passion, but they have a fear of letting go of the conventional path they have and take an unconventional path or follow their passion. What was it an easy decision for you? Did you calculate it? Was it a calculated risk? Did you just jump into it? How was that thought process?
It started into first I had a work burnout, I felt that I'm doing well, I'm extremely doing well, I'm busy at work, but I was not happy. I felt internally, although people will see me smiling, but internally I was not happy. Working is fine, money-wise is fine, life is fine, family is fine, but there is something missing. And this is where I felt that first I wanted to go back to hiking and nature. And I started going back to the gym and training. But even at that time, I was still not sure if I can do it or not. But I remember in 2018, early 2018, I was in a board meeting. I was a board member of a bank in Turkey, and I was in a board meeting. And during the board meeting, or after the board meeting, I saw there is a trip arranged for Kilimanjaro in 2 weeks' time by a group. And for some reason, I said, I'll join that group. And I did not have time to prepare, although I was going back. But even at that time, I had like so many commitments and everything. And I remember even like some of my ward telling me, Fahad, how you'll disappear for a week? You need to take a satellite phone.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. We need you. We need this. I said, guys, I'm disappearing. Forget about me. And letting go is very difficult. Even like one thing you find in most of the mountains, maybe now is less, that you don't have any internet connection, nothing. You discontinue.
Yeah.
And going to Kilimanjaro, for me, it was a one-off. I thought I'll do Kilimanjaro and that's it. But being there, suffering, being in the cold, being in uncomfortable tent, uncomfortable situation, the food, the lack of oxygen. Actually, I was feeling happy. I was feeling alive again. All of this brought my old memories when I was younger, and I felt that I want this. This is making me feeling alive, you know. So this is when I decided that maybe I will do a bit more, little more. Maybe after Kilimanjaro, I will do a bit more. And it's like a snowball.
Yeah.
Just I started doing more and more and more of that.
Because only 1 year after you did the double summit.
Yes, 1 year after. But before that, I climbed a couple of mountains. And I started working hard. And again, I think my professional career helped me also in my mountaineering, because it's about working hard, it's about researching, it's about thinking, and it's about trying to learn as fast as possible and practicing. And for me also, there was a failure in late 2018 when I was in Argentina trying to climb a mountain called Aconcagua, which is the highest mountain outside of Asia, the highest mountain in South America. And there, while climbing, I got altitude sickness and food poisoning when reaching to Camp 2 at 5,000 meters. And that was at the time when I was preparing for Everest. So that failure affected me significantly, but actually it was part of the success to climb Everest and then climb Lhotse at the same trip was because of me failing in climbing Aconcagua.
So first, what did you learn from this failure? And also, people sometimes, when people explain that I learned from my failure, they think it's like a switch. Like, okay, I failed and I had this mindset and I got myself out of it. But typically there is a journey. Like there are ups and downs even in coming out of failure.
In Aconcagua, for example, I was very well prepared. I trained very hard. I had the equipment. I've done all the checks. All the risk management measures, I took them. And even like with the team members, I felt I'm the strongest. I was doing extremely well. At 5,000 meters, I got altitude sickness, which sometimes it happened to lots of people, even if you are an experienced mountaineer. And the people who I felt maybe physically weaker than me, they were doing fine. So that affected me, not only because failing to climb the mountain, but affected, am I good enough?
Yeah.
Am I good for this? Everest base camp is 5,500. Here I failed at 5,000. So for me, the journey, initially it was very difficult because I felt that I want to give up. I cannot do it, I'll give up. But I remember during the flight from Argentina to Qatar, which took around like 14 hours, I was just thinking and reflecting. And for me, I said to myself one thing. This failure will mean I need to work harder. I shouldn't be underestimating the mission, climbing Everest. I was not underestimating that, but I need to be working harder. And for the 3 months from early January to April when I left for Everest, I was working harder than I was working in the past. If I was training for an hour a day, I started training for 2 hours. I started even before my sleep, looking at YouTube, looking at things, having conference call or Zoom call with people who climbed mountains in the past or climbed Everest. I was so scared. I was training to the level of failure, where sometimes I'm almost will break down from crying because I'm pushing my body to the maximum of pain. But the reason I kept going is because of my failure, because I remember the moment when I failed in Aconcagua, how I felt, and I said, I don't want to have that feeling again. If I'm going to Everest, I will not fail, and failure was not an option for me. Even in Everest, the failure I had in Aconcagua kept hunting me, but hunting me in a good way, where instead of making me to give up, it kept me going. And it kept me on my toes and thinking about every step I'm taking, everything I'm doing, even my sleep, even it was hunting me in a positive way. And it was the fuel that made me to climb Everest and to have the energy to go from summit of Everest to Camp 4 and then to go immediately to climb, let's say, after a few hours of rest, doing something at that moment. Only 40 people around the world in 2019 done this double summit, which is now becoming a very common thing because again, after people doing it, people think it's not hard, and we can do it.
It's the belief system. It's always the belief system.
The belief
if
system
I know
change.
Someone never done it this before, it's impossible. So people don't even think of it as an option till someone comes and tell them, no, see, it is an option.
It is an option, yes.
Yeah.
So for me, it was failure. For me, it was a good thing. It was something that kept me going. And until now, I learn from my failures, and I feel sometimes failing is good. Life is not straightforward. Life is unpredictable, and failing is a good thing.
Honestly, I would like to summarize this into 3 key points because I think it's very relevant for the entrepreneurs. One is you mentioned the mindset and how really your mindset is what keeps you going, how it sets the stage for you. And the second is the hard work. It's not just a mindset game. There's also the hard work that you need to put into it. And the third is the inspiration and asking for guidance from experts that also helped you in a way see things that you might have not see before. Thank you for sharing this. So I would also want to tap into the incident that happened to you a few years back. When you climbed the Broad Peak in Pakistan. If you can share more about it, because first, it's not a famous mountain, or at least maybe famous among the mountaineers, but maybe for the common it's not. So just share let's say the difficulties of that and what happened during that incident.
So after Everest, I continued climbing, and I climbed many mountains around the world. And even I was in Antarctica, I skied to the South Pole, I climbed Vinson, the highest mountain in Antarctica and the coldest mountain on Earth. However, something that was always in my mind that I wanted to climb K2. K2 is the second highest after Everest. However, it's more difficult than Everest, it's more challenging, it's more risky. So that kept hunting me, and I was preparing for that in secret. And in 2021, just 2 years ago, I decided I want to climb K2. Beside K2, there is a mountain called Broad Peak, which is, again, it's one of the 14 8,000ers. So it's an 8,000 mountain, it's a serious mountain. It's ranking, I think, 11 on the world in terms of height. And usually people climb Broad Peak to prepare for K2, which they do it back to back. And for me, similar to what I've done with Everest and Lhotse, I thought, like, climb Broad Peak, get acclimatized in terms of altitude and oxygen, and then I climb K2. So my plan was K2, and Broad Peak was a sideshow just to prepare for it. But during my climb, which took almost 2 months, the whole climbing trip, during my climb of Broad Peak, several incidents happened. It's a very long story, but to make it in short, that lots of decisions were taken at that time, which for me at that time I thought, based on the information I had, are the right decisions. Some of them did not prove right. Because of that, I arrived to the summit very late, and I arrived alone. And going back from the summit, I got stuck at a certain section near the summit, where there was a rescue operation undergone for someone who fell in crevasse. And they had to rescue her, and I was at the other end of the rope, so I could not go down. And during that time, because I waited for 8 hours and became almost 24 hours of continuous climbing without sleep, without rest, and running out of oxygen, I started having a bit of altitude sickness and something called cerebral edema. Because of lack of oxygen, I started having hallucination. I did not know where I was going. Even after rappelling down from that section, still at very high in the mountain at around 7,800 meters, I was alone. I was just going around alone. I did not know what's happening at night. And some of my teammates down, they thought that I'm lost and I'm dead. Because again, being lost in a mountain between the borders of China and Pakistan, overnight in a freezing temperature, darkness, you are alone, I'm hallucinating. At that time, even for myself, I thought I'm dying there. So I was just waiting to die. And I was just looking around, not knowing where to go. And only in the morning, someone saw me there, and he walked with me to Camp 3. And when he saw me, I was hallucinating. I was smiling, laughing. I did not know what's happening. And everybody thought just it's a miracle. You were alone at night. you did not first pass off, so like pass out and you lie on the snow and you just hyperthermia and you die. You did not fall over a cliff. You did not go to the wrong side. How did you survive at night? I said, because I was hallucinating, but I did not want to pass out. I did not want to sleep. I was very sleepy. I was very tired. I just kept standing at that time, and I had some thoughts mainly about my family and mainly about my daughter Maryam telling me,
Bless her.
yeah, telling me, Baba, come back, Baba, don't die. So I still remember, and even now I'm feeling emotional as I remember that moment when I was waiting to die, and just my daughter kept me going at that time. So going back to Camp 3, after around 57 hours of climbing and like almost hours of being lost and some people thinking that I died, I discovered something in my fingers, on my left hand fingers. And when I reached the tent, my fingers looked swollen and they had different color. And at that time I know that I may face frostbite. But even at that moment I thought maybe something normal. I'll go down, I'll put them in hot water, I'll be fine. It took almost a day and a half for me to go down because there was a snowstorm. And I was so exhausted I could not go down immediately. When I arrived to the tent in Camp 3, I had to sleep for 12 hours. I did not have food or drinks. My throat was painful. I could not even talk. It was like knives in my throat. Coming down to base camp, I discovered I have frostbite on 4 fingers on my left hand and 1 finger on my right hand and frost nip on the other fingers. To get a helicopter rescue, it took almost 3 days because of the weather. Arriving to Islamabad, seeing the doctors there, immediately they told me, Fahad, you may lose your fingers. But even at that time, I said, okay, I'm in Pakistan, maybe the doctors there, although the guy was very experienced because he was an army doctor in his career and he worked on the borders between Pakistan, India and China, so he saw those incidents. But immediately at the same day when I arrived to Islamabad, I flew to Qatar, and from there I flew to New York. When I flew to New York, I saw one of the best doctors in the world there in the burn section. And after checking my fingers, he told me, Fahad, you'll be losing your fingers. And at that time, I was a bit in disbelief, like, what is he saying? Like, I'll be losing my fingers? That doesn't make sense, like, I'm in the best hospital in the world, even government of Qatar and everyone there, they gave me all the support, money is not an issue. We will support you, but like they said, you'll lose your fingers. So I was in disbelief,
The denial phase of any trauma.
Denial phase. And I remember the doctor telling me, I remember myself asking the doctor, saying, when can I climb again?
Yeah.
And I remember he's looking at me and smiling and saying, you're a special guy. And I was with my wife at that time, and he's looking at her and saying, your husband is a special guy. And then looking at her again and said, will you need any mental support or emotional support? And for me, I think he thought I'm crazy when I was telling him that I would climb again. And spending another 2 weeks in New York trying to see different doctors, different hospitals, the reality started sinking to me that maybe because of that, it's not only not doing my hobby, but maybe my life will change again. From being a fully able guy, I'll be basically a disabled guy, a person with special needs, a person that I may need seek help to tie my shoes, wear my clothes, do my day-to-day activities. Can I continue working? Can I continue my life? Can I go out to people saying that I have amputated fingers eventually? But during that time, I had lots of self-reflection, and one of the things I told myself is, this shouldn't help me. So I remember going to Qatar in 2 weeks, and first thing I've done is I started working out during having the frostbite because it took 3 months for me to have my surgery. But even during that time, I continued posting my social media about my incident.
When did you get out of the denial phase?
Actually, it took me a year.
A year.
Because again, when you say you get out, even a person when he say he's fine, people are never fine. But for me, on public, I was fine.
Yeah.
I was going out in talks. People see me with my fingers. And people feeling sorry for me. And for me, I was smiling. Knowing that in 3 months, my life will change forever when I lose my fingers. I continued training. I continued working out. I continued going to the office, going out with my family. I continued everything. In October 2021, I had my surgery in the UK. I went there. And during that time, I was alone in the UK for 2 months during my amputation, my recovery stage. During that time, I continued going. And even after I fully healed and the fingers are clear and I can take a photo, the first thing is I posted a video about my hands and my face on TikTok and Instagram. It was the most difficult video for me in my life. And I remember after posting, closing all social media and feeling so sad. Because again, showing yourself, and when you are in the world and someone known in the media that you lost your fingers or you have an amputation, it's something very hard.
What did you feel at the moment? What were you feeling?
You feel sad that how people will look at you, but also you feel sad for yourself. And again, like
vulnerability.
Yeah, you feel vulnerable. But for me, I always told myself, and I found something in my story, even from early stage, that people looked at me for inspiration. And I said, I don't want to go back and disappoint people because of my own fear. I'm stronger than this. Yeah. And I remember even my video blowing on social media, and even in TikTok, I think until now it reached more than 200 million views, which was very high for a video. It's like 200 million views in a video. And people were inspired because how brave you are being happy and accepting. And again, I was happy on the outside. From the inside, I still had my challenges, which is very normal and something to tell you that even when you see people are happy, actually you need to make sure that people are happy from the inside. But this is the time where I thought to myself, and I had my secret plan. I'll go back to climbing and I'll climb K2, the Savage Mountain, one of the most difficult and hardest mountains in the world, after a short time of my surgery and without fingers.
Yeah, and that video was very powerful. The video you recorded after the summit,
which was unrehearsed, unplanned.
It definitely, anyone who will be watching the video can tell it's definitely not rehearsed.
And it took me almost a week after reaching the summit, or 5 days, to post that I reached the summit, because I've done it in secret. And even to post that video, it took me lots of thoughts, because it's very emotional, truthful, and after lots of suffering for months and months.
What did you feel at that moment, the emotions you had, considering that first, of course, there is the victory for yourself, for others, but also what did you learn from, because that, I'm sure it wasn't just a moment of victory, it was a moment of reflecting of a journey of the previous months on what was happening, the emotions that we were going through, the family, your social life, everything.
It was a cumulative things, all the emotions since I had my injury, after recovery. One thing we find it in the Arab world or Khaliji world, that people blame you for having accidents, so people were blaming me. It's your mistake. You brought this to yourself. You do stupid stuff, get stupid prizes. You injured yourself. So, and you had people even talking from your back by saying, you've done this yourself, you hurt yourself, you're stupid. So I had all of this pressure behind me. And in the same time, I had to live my life knowing that some people looking at me negatively. But for me, I did not care about what people said. I cared about how I see myself. So for me, having this injury, people said, you cannot do whatever you love and you cannot achieve what you want to achieve. So for me, it was my own challenge. It was how to prove myself I can do it. Even training to do K2, I was not sure that I can do it. I was not sure that, will I have, they call it PSTD, post-traumatic experience. Will I have flashbacks about the night that I almost died? And I will not say I almost died. I thought that I'm dying. I was waiting in a freezer without oxygen, hallucinating, thinking that I'm dying here. This is my last hours. And time was going very slow. And thinking that I was in a dream. So for those months, as I was training in secret, where very few people, even my own father and mother did not know what I was doing. Only my wife knew and very few people. That I was preparing to climb K2, one of the most dangerous mountains in the world. Like statistically, before 2021, out of every 3 people who climb K2, 1 die. Now the statistics is different, as more people climbed in 2022, 23. However, at that time, doing it after like 10 months, will my body is recovered enough? Can I train again? And again, those mountains, people train it for years. So even going to K2, I've done it in secret. I did not post about it even in social media. I was complete blackout. In the mountain, everyone was smiling and was excited to climb. For me, I was just scared from the inside. From the outside, I looked very calm, and people felt surprised that I looked calm. But from inside, I was scared. I was doubting myself. Every night when I go to my sleeping bag, I'm just shaking and thinking I cannot do it. What will happen to me? This mountain, there is lots of sections that are very difficult to climb. How can I climb it with my hand, with my body, with everything?
Yeah.
So for me, when reaching the summit, for me it was like a dream. And I remember even like 1 hour when I was seeing the summit, I was surprised. I was like, no way I'm reaching the summit. Cannot be. I almost died 10 months ago, and now, or 12 months ago, and I was reaching the summit. It was unbelievable for me. No, my mind was like a dream. Even reaching the summit after taking the photo, when I give him the phone to take the video, I did not know what I said. I remember even going down, when I went down to base camp, which took me 2 days, I was still scared going down because people die or have injuries mainly coming down, not going up. And it was very dangerous sections with lots of rock climb. And even with my hand, going down is more difficult because I cannot grab the ropes very well.
Yeah.
You know? And you need to carry yourself in a mountain such as K2. It's not a joke. And people die there, and people died during my climb. But reaching the tent and looking at the video, I did not believe what I said. And I felt shy initially because, again, I was very emotional. It was true emotions. But one story to tell you, which is very powerful for me at least. When we reached base camp, I was with a group. My group was, my expedition leader name was Nimsdai. He's very famous. He's done the movie 14 Peaks. So he's one of the most famous climbers in the world. So I climbed with him. So going back, I remember the whole group met in the dining tent for partying. And they said, Fahad, come to party with us. I was the only person who said, no, I will stay in my tent. I'm tired. Fahad, please come to party. And I remember even the tent hearing calling me, Fahad, we want you here. But for me, I was in my sleeping bag. And I was sad. I was actually crying. Because at that moment, I did not know what I achieved. But at that moment, what made me really scared is that at that moment, if you ask me, Fahad, who's your role model?
Yeah.
Actually, it was myself.
Yeah.
Which was very scary. It's a very scary moment when you know that you are your own role model. And you are a person that you are looking up to yourself and people will look up to you. It is a very good, big responsibility for me. And until today, even today in the conference, I want to make sure that I'm the right role model. Everything I do, the way I behave with everyone, that I am a role model for what I have done, and I need to continue. And one thing I know, that even between Khaliji, there is very few role models, outside of, let's say, social media or people who've done achievements are very few. And being a role model is something very important, I think, for people in the Gulf, mainly in the Arab world.
And the next generation of the leaders, of course.
And the next generation. And until now, when somebody come to me and say, you're a role model, I feel scared inside me. Because it's a very, very difficult responsibility to be.
It's first, this is very beautifully articulated. And honestly, the way you go through the emotions, your journey, and also sharing something that I find almost all entrepreneurs will be feeling, which is when you mentioned how in our region they taking an unconventional path is not very common, and not just that, sometimes it's not very appreciated. And this is something when you spoke about it, and I really want to know if you found was having a support system important, or you really generally only relied on yourself? If anyone in similar situation, especially the entrepreneurs who wants to take, or even someone who just want to venture out in anything in life, and they are faced with all these fear of judgments from people around them, or even similar to what you mentioned, maybe guilt can creep into them, feeling that maybe I'm actually doing something wrong, harming myself and harming my family, or harming any person who I am responsible for.
See, it's very important to be responsible to everyone around you, and family come first, always family come first. I think having the support is good, always. I think different people act in different ways. Some people like to have lots of support around them, some people like to have few. But I think it's all about mental health. People should care about their own mental health and the mental health of people around them. I had some people around me who did not support me, but I had the support of my family. I had the support of my kids. I had the support of people close to me where they believed in me. They believed in what I want to do. But I think the most important thing is to believe in yourself.
Yeah.
What people fail the most is they underestimate their own ability. They underestimate their own strength. They underestimate what they are capable of. And sometimes you need to look at yourself and you say, I can do it, no matter what people say. And always, like there is a saying that I learned before, like failure is not an option. Yeah. And always believe in yourself. And life will continue if you decide to live it. This is what I keep telling to myself is, after my injury, after my amputation, I can decide not to live the life I want to be. It's all my own decision. It's not for others to decide how my life will go or how my life will be.
Beautiful. If I want to summarize a few, let's say, learnings from your journey, things that you faced in the mountain that you think anyone can take in real life, what would be these 3 advices?
First, that failing is good. If you fail, doesn't mean you give up. Because what differentiates people is the way they handle failure. It's the way they handle setbacks. It's very easy to see successful people and they look happy because they are always successful. However, you will know how strong they are when they fail, when they have setbacks. This is where people have difficulties and you see the true people. I always say, like when we go on mountains and trips, you find people who are very happy, cheerful, but after a few days being in the mountain, being in low oxygen, very difficult environment, actually you see sometimes some people, they change because the true self show. People who give up, you see them complaining, we want to give up, we cannot continue. People who are very cheerful, suddenly they become very rude, they don't want to deal with anyone. And you find certain kind of people who maybe they were quiet, maybe you think they give up, maybe physically they were not the strongest, but they have the endurance, they are continuing.
Yeah.
Mentally and emotionally they are strong. And this is where differentiate a successful entrepreneur, that he finds in setbacks opportunity. Setbacks and failures make him work harder, become more cautious in the future, learn from his mistakes and want to make more mistakes that can take him to the next level. So I think sometimes I always say failure is the fuel that can push you to achieve more.
Yeah, beautiful. And you from a very early age, you had a very different mindset, and I believe it developed over a period of time. Now, as you mentioned, where you feel you are your own inspiration, which is a place where it requires a lot of resilience and commitment. If someone is listening to us today and wants to, let's say, find places where they can start finding inspiration or some guidance, did you tap into any form of, let's say, certain books or certain authors or any form of inspiration that you can share with others?
Currently, I'm working on a book. It will be first in English. It's currently in the final draft. I need to review it. The delay from my side because actually reviewing books about yourself is very difficult because again it was very emotional stage for me.
Autobiographies are my favorite. Like it really.
Exactly. But reading the incident that happened, like everything, my emotional journey is very difficult. So I'm having difficult time reviewing the book. But I hope by end of this year it will be published. I think the second challenge for me is finding a publisher. And also there was a plan for a movie, but I think the challenge was finding, although we have Al Jazeera in Qatar, but it's finding the right director who will take the movie, who like the idea. And mountaineering is very specialized.
Of course, it needs a very specialized equipment and crew.
But hopefully the book will come in place. I'll find a good publisher by end of the year. And I hope a movie will come in a year or 2 years' time, a documentary about the incident. And the purpose of both the book and the movie is to inspire others. I think it's more about telling them how to continue going and how not to give up and not to let go.
That's great to hear. I'm personally looking forward to it, and I'm sure there are thousands and millions of people are looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So do you, where can people find you if they want to know you more and find your content?
I'm very media shy, so even conferences I do like once or twice, and just to mention, I do lots of work. I like to do lots of work of charities. Even when I do, like, for example, paid conferences, like, for example, for some big corporation about leadership, I always make sure that any money they pay me go directly into charity, 100%. I don't keep anything for myself. So I raise money for Qatar Cancer Society and Qatar Society for Special Needs through my speeches and through my the events I attend. I am into TikTok. I am in TikTok is Fahad Badar. In Instagram, Fahad917. I have a YouTube channel. I have Facebook. But I don't post a lot, but you can Google me. There are some articles about me. But I hope at least the book will be something good that could give a bit about myself. And maybe this podcast is... I've done very few podcasts over the past 2 years. And I think this is the second podcast
Great,
I do.
I'm glad.
So
my pleasure.
I hope it cover a bit about myself and my journey.
Great. To wrap it up, do you have any, let's say, saying or a motto that you live by or you admire?
I have many. Just like I said, failure is not an option. Life will continue if you decide to live it. But I think one thing I will tell everyone is that be nice. Be nice to everyone around you. Everyone is suffering inside them, even if they are smiling. Even if you feel they are the strongest people, just be nice. Be nice to everyone. If he's someone who's very important or just a cleaner that you pass around, be nice to people because everyone is having their own challenges. Everyone is having their own difficulties. Maybe it will not feel physical, it will be inside them. However, just be nice.
It's a very, very beautiful one. Thank you, Fahad, so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for hosting me. Thank you.